Well, it's that time of year, mock draft season. These are always very fun to make, very fun to argue over, and tell each other why we're idiots. Always some good stuff here, and I'm going to do this a few different times with different ways I'm going to do it because I think that there's several ways you can do a mock draft. The way I'm going to do this mock draft that you're watching is going to be just what I think is the best player available. Which pick would most help that team? So even if there's someone who's probably not going to go until like the fourth round, if I think they're worth a top 3 pick, I'm going to select them there, even though in a real draft, I wouldn't do that. I'd wait for a later round to do it then. So just so you know how exactly this one is going to work, I think it should be fun, and it'll probably give you an idea of really how I feel about the prospects as opposed to just where I think they'll end up going. And so let's just get into it, and we're going to start off with number one. Number one, I feel pretty confident about this. I am going to go with Zach Wilson. I know that there is a lot of people who say that, oh no, it would be crazy to go with Zach Wilson. You should go with Trevor Lawrence here. And obviously I get that. Trevor Lawrence is legitimately awesome. And just spoiler alert, he's going to be number 2. But I do think that Zach Wilson does what he does a little bit better. I think that he does, when I watch him, he feels like an Aaron Rodgers type. He feels like Russell Wilson. That's what I really feel about him. I've talked about this to death. You guys know this. Let's just move on to the number 3. And number 3, it's another one that's going to be a bit of a surprise right here. It's not going to be Justin Fields. It's not going to be Trey Lance. It's not going to be Mac Jones or Davis Mills. It is going to be Kellen Mond. Obviously, this is where we get into, okay, obviously this isn't going to happen. I'm not saying it will. San Francisco, they wouldn't have traded up this high just to select someone that was going to go into third round. But I think that Kellen Mond would actually be great in this system. Like, that just seems like such a fantastic fit. And I think that San Francisco would have been better off instead of trading up here, maybe just trading up to like the 32 pick in the draft and selecting Kellen Mond then. I just think that he's so good, and I think that he would fit the system really well. To me, he is worth a top 3 pick. It's just, for whatever reason, people are sleeping on him. Number 4 is interesting. I'm not going to go quarterback. I don't think that they have to go quarterback here. Atlanta does. So I'm going to go with my highest. It's tough because Penei Sewell is someone who I have a higher grade on than Pitts, as do they. But I think that Pitts fits the team better. So it is a little bit difficult. I don't think they need a tight end, but I just think that Kyle Pitts is so good. You take him. You could go Sewell there if you want. You could even maybe go quarterback if you really wanted to. But I just think that, get the great tight end, get the guy who could be a cornerstone. And tight ends are hard to get. That's another thing, is part of what you will notice in this draft is I'm taking positional value into account. And for a tight end, I think they're highly underrated because there's not that many great tight ends out there. There's only a small handful. There's 100 great wide receivers. There's only a few tight ends. So getting an elite tight end, that's worth a top 4 pick, in my opinion. And you're going to kind of see a similar mindset when I go with Sewell here at 5 for Cincinnati. Again, it's positional value just as much as it is talent. I think that, a lot of people like Jamar Chase. I like Jamar Chase. I couldn't justify spending a top 5 pick on a wide receiver when you can get so many talented wide receivers in the second round. Plus, Sewell's just awesome. So I think that those kind of both go hand in hand there. So those are my next 2 picks. This one's interesting here at 6. There's a lot of ways I could go with this. I know a lot of people would probably have Chase here. I don't think it's worth a pick that high. Some people might have quarterback here. I don't. I think that you just run it out with Tua and see how that works. So what do you do? Well, there's several things you can do. I think I'm going to go with Micah Parsons. I love Parsons' tape. I think Parsons is incredible. To me, this is a no-brainer. I'm getting Parsons here at 6. I think that he fits that defense so perfectly too. I actually think that this wouldn't be a horrible thing for them to do in the real draft. I could kind of see it happening maybe. I think that they want to go receiver, but getting an elite linebacker who can really just, again, it's such a perfect system fit. This just seems like a good decision to me. So now number 7, to me, there is 2 ways you can go here. You could go just quarterback. You do have Jared Goff, who's not a bad quarterback at all. But you could also get sort of a higher upside guy. And for me, that would be Mac Jones, who's next on my list. The other thing would be Jalen Phillips, who I just think is an incredible talent. Both are kind of interesting options here. And I don't know, it's tough because this is a team that, honestly, they probably should trade back. I think this would be a good trade back team, but I'm not doing trades. I think that just gets too complicated. So, man, this is a tough one. I understand the logic behind quarterback, but I think I'm just going to get best player available. And for me, that's Jalen Phillips. I think that he's just this true elite edge rusher. And you can get the quarterback next year. Jared Goff is not a horrible quarterback. You don't need to do it now. Maybe just have a rebuilding season, get a good player, and then worry about the quarterback next year. I think that makes way more sense to me than getting a quarterback. Because if you get it now, I don't think Detroit has a roster to be competitive next year. And you're basically you're losing one of those years of having a quarterback on a rookie deal, which we've seen can be very helpful. So number 8, I am going quarterback here. I'm not crazy about Sam Darnold. He's a fine backup plan. I just don't think that they should completely put all their eggs in the Sam Darnold basket. They should have multiple different options. So for me, this is the Mac Jones pick, and he fits that defense too. So I think this just makes sense to me. I totally think that Mac Jones in this system, I like it a lot. And we're going to stick with quarterbacks. I'm going to go Trey Lance here for Denver. I think that, again, getting the quarterback, if you need a quarterback, Denver almost certainly is going to go quarterback. I think I could see them maybe trading with potentially Detroit, which seems like a little bit weird because it's only moving up 2 spots. But to jump Carolina, who could be a quarterback needy team, also Detroit might want to go quarterback, might be sort of hesitant. So if you can talk them out of it with a trade, that could work, and you could get a better quarterback potentially. But Trey Lance is good. I'm sure they'd be very happy with Trey Lance. Number 10, Dallas. Let's be honest. Everyone is projecting Dallas to get a defensive player of some sort. That's what I'm going to do as well. But again, not the guy that a lot of people would go with, I think. I am going to go with Levi Onwuzurike. Nailed the name. I think that he's a really talented player. And I think that his size is going to scare some people off, he plays way bigger. He's an incredible talent. And they could use an interior defensive lineman. And personally, I'm kind of from the belief of if your secondary sucks, get a good D-line, because that's the best way to clear up the secondary other than just fixing it. So I think it's easier to get a couple good defensive linemen than to get an entire good secondary. So that's a better Band-Aid, I think. They'll still have more work to do in the second round and stuff, but get the best defensive player. I don't think any corner is worth a top 10 pick in this draft. I just don't. Number 11. This is interesting. I think that there's several ways they could go. I think I'm going to go offensive line here. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Christian Darrisaw here. I honestly consider Justin Fields. I really do think that might not be an awful move, even though I'm lower on Fields. I still think that he's falling right now. Look at a couple picks ahead too. He probably won't go then. I would not hate Justin Fields here, but I'm going to go Darrisaw. I think give Daniel Jones one more year, and you need the offensive line anyway. So again, if you just go with Fields, you're wasting a potential asset that could help you. And I think Darrisaw will end up being really, really good. For the Eagles, now they could decide to go with wide receiver, right? Because they definitely need a wide receiver. It kind of feels like it would be a bit of a reach at this point. I also think it'd be a bit of a reach for corner or safety at this point. So, if that's the needs that they say on the mock draft machine, it's a little bit tough. I think this is a clear trade down for me. I don't think they will. I think they're going to end up just trading getting a receiver. I think I'll get a receiver too, I guess. This is way lower. I mean, he's 21 on my board. He's going 12 here, but I'm going to go with Kadarius Toney, who's 37 on there, but I don't know what people aren't seeing in Toney. I think he's incredible. I'm going to get him at 12 here. Again, a bit of a reach. This is a trade down scenario, but I'd rather just have the better player that's going to fit my team. And, he's someone who can get open consistently. So I would feel great about that if I'm an Eagles fan, even though they'd probably freak out because no one realizes how good he is, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I could definitely be wrong. Number 13. All right. The Los Angeles Chargers. This is an interesting pick here. So here's the thing. The next 2 guys on my board, I have Justin Fields, who is still the next, he's the highest rated on my board, followed by Landon Dickerson. I think they don't need, I don't think they need a center because they just got Corey Linsley, the best center in the league. I don't think they need a quarterback. They have, the reigning offensive rookie of the year. So I'm going to go next on my board, and that is Jock here. What is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah? Not sure if I got that right. I got to figure out how to say his name because we're going to be saying it a lot recently. I think that he's an incredible player. And again, linebackers are important. Compare him with Derwin James. That could make that defense look really scary. So I like this a lot. I think this is a good fit for them. Number 14, I am going to go corner here. I'm going to pick my best corner in the draft. I said I thought corner might be a reach here with the Eagles. Maybe I should have gone with Farley at this point. I do like them getting a receiver, though. I think they need a receiver more than they need a corner, in my opinion, just given how bad the receiving core was. But for the Vikings, there's no doubt about it. I don't know what they were thinking with the Jeff Gladney selection. That was one that even me, I could tell you that wasn't going to work. And I didn't, this is before I created this whole new system that I'm using for this year's draft grades that I think are going to be a lot better than what most people use. So the Jeff Gladney thing wasn't going to work. Getting a fast corner that's just has the speed to keep up with these guys, it's going to work a lot better. I think, we'll see. But that's what I would go with there. Now for the Patriots, yeah, this seems like, if he does fall a little bit, this could be a Justin Fields team. I don't think this is going to happen. I think a team's going to pick up Fields before he gets to the Patriots. It's what I would do here. So again, even in my mock draft, I'm saying that he's a top 15 pick. So it's not like I'm down on Fields. I'm just a little bit higher on some of these other quarterbacks. That's all. But I do think the Patriots will probably end up with, I think there's a good chance they can end up with one of those top 5 quarterbacks. If not that, maybe get a second round or third round guy. Because I think there's a deep class and there's plenty of guys who could end up being good. So I like Fields a lot. Now we'll get on to number 16, the Arizona Cardinals. This is an interesting one. While there is Landon Dickerson still on the board, and they could maybe use a guard, he's a center, and they just got Rodney Hudson. They don't need a center now. They do need some cornerback help. And so I think that's what I'm going to go with here. Because, in fact, at this point, the second highest player on my board is a corner, and that is going to be, they're going to have to go down a little bit. Let's see, where do they have him? Oh, my God, they think he's going to be horrible. Tyson Campbell is going to be my corner here at 16. It's never going to happen. But listen, again, getting a fast corner who's physical, who can have that acceleration to keep up with guys in the NFL, speed kills when it comes to corners. I mean, you look at speed, that's the number one predictor as to who's going to have success in the NFL is a fast 40 time. Even better than tape, even better than when they were drafted. Just a 40 time. It's such a key thing to have. So for Tyson Campbell, I think that he's going to be a great corner. I have him here at 16. Now, number 17. For the Raiders, I could keep going corner here. That's definitely an option. I know they have a lot of young guys. I don't think they really need corner. There's bigger needs on the team, I guess I would say. Some people keep mocking like edge to the Raiders. I don't get that at all. I think they just got Unique Ngakoue. They don't need an edge. What they could use, though, is potentially someone who can clog up the middle. And I think really, again, with their defense having its struggles, I think getting guys who can get consistent pressure, to me, that matters. That matters a lot. And so that's what I think I'm going to go with here. And the question is, do I go with Christian Barmore or do I go with Tyler Shelvin? I think I'm going to go with the big guy. Again, just take on double teams and then free things up for Max Crosby, for Cleveland Farrell, who might be playing on the inside. I don't know. And then, obviously Unique Ngakoue. To me, this makes sense. Just get the big guy who can, mess stuff up, to say the PG version. And now for Miami here at number 18. Listen, everyone's going to want to go wide receiver here. I should mention this is why you wait on wide receiver, because there's a lot of good wide receiver talent that you'll be able to get a receiver with 18. Don't draft Chase at 6, even though they might do that. Now you can sort of work on a different need. You can potentially get best player available because they have a few needs. And I'll say, hey, your offensive line has had some issues. Let's just get probably the best offensive lineman if you take out positional value in the draft. And for me, that's going to be Landon Dickerson, who I've talked about it before a little bit of like, how do you not, there's other guys you kind of want to get. That just sort of falls a little bit lower. He's 13 on my board, goes 18. So that's good value, I think. So I'm going to get him there. And it's position of need. They could use a center. So I like this a lot for them. And now for the Washington football team. They're honestly a really interesting team. There's, I was looking at their mock draft machine thing, what they say they need. They're saying like offensive tackle. I don't know if they really need an offensive tackle. They could use a linebacker. I get that, but I'm not sure if I would go this early. And I definitely wouldn't go this early for a safety. But I do think that they could maybe use another wide receiver. I don't think they need it at this point because they do have 2, but why not get a third receiver? Because having 3 receivers, all the analytics people say, like, you want to get that third receiver. So how about adding Jalen Waddle to the mix? Now you have not just, geez, why am I blanking on the name? McLaurin. You could have McLaurin, Terry McLaurin, and obviously Curtis Samuel, who they just signed. And now you get Jalen Waddle. Now you have 3 guys who can just absolutely be dominant, not to mention really good depth. So they don't need this whatsoever. It's a luxury pick, but I think that they're a pretty complete team. I mean, they could, I'm not sure about their quarterback position entirely, but I think other than that, they're good. Like, I think that their offensive line's good. I think their secondary is good. They had one of the best defenses in the league last year. Why not just build up on offense? And to me, he's the best offensive player still on the board. So I'd say go there. That's what I would do. Now for Chicago, I think they kind of got to follow suit a little bit because I don't think there's enough of what else they need available. I think they're going to go Jamar Chase here at 20. Again, listen, you could lose Allen Robinson. We'll get the guy who's getting compared to Allen Robinson, although I think that's a bit disrespectful to Robinson. Robinson's really good. You can't guarantee that Chase will, be that good. Listen, if this happened, Bears fans would be ecstatic because of how hyped up Chase is. I'm a little bit lower on Chase than most people are, but I think if this happened, it would be a good fit. And do we have a run here at wide receiver? We might, because honestly, I think we kind of have to, right? Yeah, you want to get a tackle, but I just don't know if there's a tackle that's worth drafting at this point in the draft. So maybe you trade back, but I kind of like the idea of instead just draft Terrence Marshall Jr. I think that makes a lot more sense. You can get that number 1 receiver, which they could use, and I think this makes a lot of sense. So again, this is why you wait in the draft to get a receiver, especially if I'm the one drafting, because I'm going to be a little bit lower on it. You can just get so many guys. There's a lot of other guys you can still get as well. For Tennessee, I am going to go corner here, and I'm going to go with maybe the fastest corner in the draft. I'm going with Eric Stokes here. Again, speed kills. If you're a fast corner, I'm interested in it. I know that he can get beat with footwork at time, but he has good ball skills. And I think that I'd rather a guy who has great speed and not the best footwork when it comes to corners than a guy with great footwork and not the best speed, because you got to come back eventually. You're going to make mistakes, and he can at least come back, whereas other guys can't. Number 23, the New York Jets. Why not? Let's just load up on edge rushers. Let's see. Is he on here? He is. Kwity Paye. I like him. I think he's a really good player. Again, he had that 3-cone drill that everyone lost their mind over, but we don't know if it's true or not, which was interesting. But again, his technique is incredible. And I also think with their good interior defensive line, they have Carl Lawson. Now you can get Kwity Paye to dominate, essentially, get a great defensive line. Their defense isn't the issue necessarily, and it could have maybe gone wide receiver to help out in this draft, Trevor Lawrence. But I think that just get a great defensive line. He's the best player available. It would feel like a reach to try to fit for need totally, and this is something that could help them a lot. So number 24, things are interesting again for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do think that there's several things that they could use, and there's not a ton that I think that, again, it's one of those weird, I just don't know if this is a perfect fit right here. I don't know if there is a perfect fit right here for Pittsburgh. Actually, I just thought about it. There is a perfect fit. I wasn't really thinking. I sort of skimmed past Rashawn Slater. Slater, that just makes sense. He can play tackle, which they need a tackle. Yeah, incredible fit. What was I talking about? I sort of forgot that they needed a tackle, and I forgot Slater was right there. So that makes my decision a lot easier. Now for Jacksonville, well, they would have loved to have Slater, I would imagine. They don't really, I'm surprised it says wide receiver on there, because I don't know if they need a wide receiver. I mean, they have 3 guys who can play. Do you really need a 4th? I mean, I guess you could potentially, but that's a bit of a surprise for me. And again, safety, I'm not really interested in. Running back, way too early for a running back. Offensive line does seem to be the move right here. And let's see, who do I have next highest on my board? I already got Rashawn Slater, so that would mean that my next highest is Tevin Jenkins, which, yeah, I like that. That's fine. He can play tackle or potentially guard. Either way, you're getting a starting level player. I like that a lot. I think that's actually a pretty good fit for them there. So maybe there's a few guys I like better, but given the need, you got to protect Zach Wilson in this case. They could have gone defense as well, but you know what? I'm just gonna stick with what I got there. So yeah, that's I'm going with Jenkins. For Cleveland, again, I don't know why this would say edge when they just signed. Maybe this is before the Clowney signing, because they obviously have Myles Garrett. So I don't get that at all. You could go interior defensive lineman. That's not an awful pick, actually, to really just try and help things out. And with, with Christian Barmore still on the board, this seems like that's the kind of move that I'm going to make right here. He is the next highest guy on my board. He was ranked at 20. He goes here at 26. So, yeah, I like that a lot. Makes a lot of sense to me. And now number 27. Well, this is a good pick for them. I'm sure that they would love this. Devonta Smith falling all the way down here to 27. I know I'm a little bit lower on him than most, but I still really like him. It's one of those things where I feel like it's not that I don't see what everyone else sees. It's not that I think he's worse than everyone else thinks. I just think there's guys who are better personally. So I think he's a great prospect. Baltimore needs a wide receiver, so getting him here, this just makes perfect sense, I think. And now for the New Orleans Saints, they're definitely in a very interesting spot, I think, where, they didn't lose as much as we thought they would, but they did lose some. So I'm not sure exactly where to go here. You know what? I think I'm going to go JC Horn. I think that's what I'm going to do. JC Horn, because, again, just think about the fit. They like to play their two safeties deep. They need a corner now because of the Jenkins, getting cut. So getting a corner where now, this makes a lot of sense to me. I really like this move. So that's what I'm going to go with there. Now for Green Bay. Well, everyone always says, Green Bay, you got to get a receiver. You got to get a receiver. I just don't know if there's a receiver still available right now that I would feel good about. I mean, my next highest is Dimey Brown, but he's 39. So that would be 10 spots of a reach, which you could still do if you really like that fit. But I think that you could probably do better. So let's see what else we could potentially do here. Oh, you know what? I missed Rashad Bateman, and I think I am going to go there. Rashad Bateman, he was higher on my list. I missed him when I was looking at it. So I forgot about him. That's the difficulty of having my own list that I have, because, I just disagree with so much on these traditional mock drafts. And if I'm being honest, when I look at a lot of these traditional mock drafts, I just feel like it's a lot of people. It's an echo chamber. It's a lot of people just agreeing with themselves. And I think that it's good to sort of, I do my position rankings without looking at much. And then I sort of look at what people are saying and say, really? You think that? I didn't think that at all. So hopefully that helps. Maybe it hurts. I don't know. But I think it's worth a shot to just try and find a better way to do this. I just think it's worth a shot. Okay, so number 30, let's get a little wild here. I'm going to do what all the analytics guys hate, and I'm going to draft a running back in the first round of Najee Harris. There's a few reasons for this. He was number 40 on my board. I personally don't hate the idea of drafting a running back in the first round. I just hate the idea of doing it if you don't think you're going to be competitive in the next few years. I think you do it if you're trying to win right now, because the running back does make a big impact in a single game. The issue is they just don't last that long, I think, and you do have to have a good offensive line. But they could really use just like a 3-down running back, which Harris is. So I think that this would make a lot of sense, actually. Go win a Super Bowl now. Don't worry about 5 years from now. Win one now. And I think Harris helps you win a Super Bowl now compared to, a lot of the other guys. I think the next 5 guys that I have on my board are all either linebackers or safeties. They don't need that. So if you don't really have a great positional fit, well, just get what's going to help you the most. I think Harris would help them a lot. So, yeah. Number 31, this is another team. They could use a linebacker. So this is interesting because I have Jabril Cox still on the board, who feels like he should be a first-round talent, but it's just sort of dropped due to scheme fit right here, whereas they need a tackle more. And because of that, I just think I have to go tackle right here. So I am going to go tackle. It's just because that's what they need. And I think that you do have to draft for need. Again, you can't just think about what's going to, what's the best player available, but what's going to help you win a Super Bowl. The Chiefs are trying to win a Super Bowl next year. They would need a tackle to do it. I'll go Vadunes. I just think that helps them the most. And finally, Tampa Bay. This is interesting because, that's the thing about Tampa Bay. They don't really need a ton, right? Like, they're a pretty complete roster. So you can go based on, well, what do you want? What helps you? So they could go with offensive line help just sort of as a backup. I think that's not a horrible move just to get like a backup offensive lineman, because those guys get hurt a lot. So getting a good backup could help. But is that the best use of this? I don't know. They could go running back here, which would make sense. ETN's still on the board. I'm definitely considering that. Another thing I'm considering would be Jamar Johnson, even though they don't need a safety. Again, just getting some sort of this talented player in your secondary guys can get hurt. And, again, this is a luxury pick, so you could sort of go with the luxury. Another thing would be like a Joe Tyron, who is an edge rusher. People keep talking about edge, even though they don't need one, just sort of as a rotational guy. He'll get snaps. And finally, you could also go wide receiver because Antonio Brown hasn't signed yet. So it's interesting. There's a lot of ways they could go with this. I think what I am going to do though, oh man, this is not easy. This really isn't. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go running back. It's what they need the most. ETN. He's a really good player. I think that getting ETN, that would just make sense to me. So that's what I'm going to do with. That's what I'm going to do with. That's what I'm going to go with. And that is my mock draft. What I would do if I wasn't picking for, positional value, but instead picking for just who could I get, who helps my team the most kind of view. Not like, again, because I would never select Kellen Mond number 3 overall because you could get him later. But I think he would help them the most. So that's why I have that there. Yeah, kind of a fun video. Again, I know no one, I am the only person who has this mock draft. I'm pretty sure of that. I don't think anyone else also agrees with me 100%, but I think it's right. That's why I'm doing it. I think that I have a system and we'll see if it works. It could blow up in my face, but I think that there's going to be some real truth to it. And I hope so. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.